Have you ever wanted to fly? Well, it's something that humans have been dreaming of for a very long time. And boy, they sure did make it happen. I'm Ben, and you're watching The History of Flight. As I said before, most humans have always liked the idea of flight. And I personally agree. Seeing the world from above, while a fascinating experience, could also be useful for many things, including during war, which is a major interest. And that's why Leonardo da Vinci, in 1485, created a concept aircraft design called the flying machine, or ornithopter. It was intended to allow a human to achieve powered flight by lying down on a wooden plank and using their legs and arms to fly. Leonardo created an intricate system of pulleys and levers powered by the pilot that aimed to replicate the flapping motion of birds' wings. Unfortunately, Leonardo's thorough understanding of aerodynamics that he incorporated into the design didn't account for the fact that manpower couldn't physically provide enough thrust to keep both the human and machine in the air. Therefore, the ornithopter was never built. Next, in 1783, Jacques Etienne and Joseph-Michel Montgolfier, two brothers from France, revolutionized flight by inventing the hot air balloon and performing the first manned flight in history. There was only one problem. While hot air balloons are fascinating, they are also uncontrollable. You can adjust your altitude by increasing or decreasing the amount of heat blown into the balloon. However, maneuvering horizontally is effectively impossible. The direction you travel is determined by the wind, making navigation rather adventurous, and therefore not the best decision for military scouting, transport, or anything else that required you to land at a specific destination. George Cayley was a little-known British flight specialist, despite constructing the very first flying glider capable of carrying a person. In 1853, near Yorkshire, his glider was flown. Inside was George's coachman, who sat in a small boat-shaped compartment suspended under the wings. It was launched by a running horse who pulled it to a cliff, where it glided 900 feet across a valley and promptly crashed on the other side. The coachman, who survived, requested not to be hired to test any more of George Cayley's aircraft, saying, "Please, Sir George, I wish to give notice. I was hired to drive, not to fly." George Cayley is often referred to as the father of aviation, as he also thought of many of the concepts that today's planes use. For example, he defined basic flight concepts: weight, drag, lift, and thrust. He also recognized that drag should be reduced and thrust enhanced in order to perform flight, something that had never been considered before. However, even with all these innovations, humans still wanted more. They still do, in fact. The Wright brothers were the first people to fly a powered airplane. That is, not a glider, not a balloon, but something that produced its own power and provided somewhat controlled flight. First, however, the brothers created multiple gliders, each improving the design of the last. They figured out how to land smoothly, though admittedly sometimes they failed. All through 1900, 1901, and 1902, the brothers created more and more and more gliders, experimenting with wing styles, trying to improve lift and give a safer ride. There was only one problem. The gliders, as the name suggests, weren't powered. Wherever they glided, they'd land, and they could only fly downwards. The brothers, after considering this, made arguably the biggest breakthrough in their careers. They built the first machine to provide powered flight by simply adding a gasoline propeller to their glider. After multiple delays caused by their propeller shaft breaking during stationary testing, the machine was finally finished on December 13th, 1903. However, the brothers waited to test it, as the 13th was a Sunday. This, by a lucky coincidence, caused them to test it on December 14th, the 121st anniversary of the first hot air balloon test by the Montgolfier brothers. The Wright brothers flipped a coin to decide who should fly the machine. Wilbur won, and flew for a grand total of 3 seconds. The engine stalled immediately after takeoff, causing the contraption to crash. After repairs had been made, on December 17th, the brothers tried again to fly. Multiple times they took off, however the weather was bad, with cold winds gusting up to 43 kilometers an hour. Flights were short, but more successful as the brothers learned the basics of powered flight. The last flight of the day reached a length of 59 seconds and an altitude of 852 feet, before the machine lost control and plunged to the ground, crashing violently but causing no injuries. However, the public response to their invention wasn't great. The press wasn't interested, claiming that the flights were too short to be of importance. Only in 1908, during a test flight in France, did the public take interest in the newly created Flyer 3. Soon, everyone was talking about the flight, and the Wright brothers became famous. From there, flight machines became more and more advanced. Louis Blériot, in 1909, created a monoplane called the Blériot 11 and flew it across the English Channel in 37 minutes. The first flight company, called DeLague, or
Deutsche Luftschifffahrtsaktiengesellschaft,
was founded. This company was a large milestone in the history of flight, as it was the first that commercialized flight. However, it flew Zeppelins, which are not classified as powered aircraft and therefore somewhat irrelevant to this inquiry. Soon, however, aircraft discovered a new purpose: war. Surprisingly, when World War I started, many were unconvinced that airplanes could be useful during warfare. However, when horses proved to be rather useless for reconnaissance, flight was proved to be a rather useful tool. And while German Zeppelins had convinced people that heavier-than-air aircraft was useless, the German army was the first to mass produce and deploy planes in large numbers, starting with the Taube. Soon, aircraft was used to drop bombs and shoot at both other aircraft and ground bases. After World War I was over, another large milestone was reached. The first company that commercialized powered aircraft was created. It was called KLM, founded in 1999, and is still in operation today. It flew its very first scheduled service on May 17, 1920, flying between Amsterdam and London. Aircraft was evolving fast, and so were women's rights. Kind of. On June 17, 1928, Amelia Earhart began her flight around the world, and almost made it, disappearing somewhere in the Pacific Ocean and never returning. Even so, she left a lasting legacy. From then on, planes got faster, breaking the sound barrier in 1947. They also became cleaner, with the first hybrid plane being tested in 2014 and the first fully electric passenger plane flying in 2022. Planes continue evolving to this day, with new innovations every year. And this ends our history of flight. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is Ben, signing off.